Don Brewer and Mark Farner look back at the early crazy days of Grand Funk. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. You know, if you ask Mark Farner, Don Brewer, Mel Shacker, and later Greg Frost, if there were things on the ultimate rock and roll list of good and bad things to do, if they'd even look at the list, because chances are they've done everything. Their rise to fame in the early 70s was quick. This is part 2 of our exclusive interview with Mark Farner, who was their lead singer, guitarist, keyboard player, the main man behind most of the hits, who is no longer in Grand Funk. And to this day, he claims he was suckered into giving up his portion or his voting share of that band by the other two guys. A few weeks ago, I got off the phone with Don Brewer, their drummer, their original drummer, still with the band, and I thought, I'm going to do a series on Grand Funk. I was really happy about it, but something was bugging me. I kept going, I can't really do this unless I talk to Mark Farner. Mark was their lead singer. Don Brewer sang a few hits, but really, when the dust settles, it was Mark Farner who sang most of those songs, wrote most of those songs, and with no disrespect to Don, I knew I had to track him down, contacted his wife, and then we decided to do the interview. So even though you're going to hear both guys in this clip, they were never in the same room because, of course, they're not talking because of Mark not being in the band. He feels like he was cheated out of that band. First, we start with Mark Farner. Remember the song Rock and Roll Soul from Phoenix? It was their first album without Terry Knight. Even though it was not a huge success, there was just something about it that I really enjoyed. And that song kind of said it all for me. They were a rock band that played R&B. I asked Mark Farner if that was conscious.
It was only as we were growing as people and evolving as musicians that the styles would cross over and change, and as the years would bring, the experience would bring change to our music. But it was totally unintentional. There was never any deliberation on what we should do, how we should say it, or anything.
As mentioned, and all the fans know this, Grand Funk got on that stage, the big stage. They got big really quickly. I asked drummer Don Brewer how his family reacted to that fame in the early 70s.
Unfortunately, my dad passed away before I really, hit it big. My mother was around, and she loved it. She and my dad were very supportive of anything I wanted to do musically. They let me go down in the basement and start bands down there and, bang drums, and they brought my sister up, at being a dancer. She had a dance studio in the basement, and then she went off to New York and danced on Broadway, and, she made that a lifelong career. So they were very supportive of both of us, with anything we wanted to do musically or entertainment-wise, and my dad actually helped me build the first trailer that we used to pull the band's equipment in, and I was always the guy, that had the trailer at home, and we'd load up the gear and go out and play shows on the weekend. So my mother was around when Grand Funk started happening, and of course she was always very concerned that I wasn't going to school and I wouldn't have something to fall back on, but I think I passed that anyway. I went back to school later.
After Don Brewer, I talked to Mark Farner, and I asked him, at what point did you know in the early 70s that this machine, this Grand Funk Railroad machine, was really taking off?
We really had no clue until it started happening. And then my grandmother's calling me and telling me all the calls that she's been receiving all day long. She can't get away from the phone. It's the way, and she's taking messages and numbers, bless her little heart. But that was the kind of thing that started happening. And then one time I got up one morning and there's a van sitting down at my gate. We had gates across the driveway. We had a 190-acre farm, and it was dirt roads out there in rural Michigan. But there was a van sitting there, and so we turned the loudspeaker on down at the gate and quizzed them to see what it was. It was somebody from Texas who drove up and wanted to have coffee with me. I mean, it's like they expected that to happen. A lot of people, they get high and do that. I don't know. There was some kid was crawling underneath the juniper bushes up front of my house. I mean, I could tell because it was a dead calm, still day, and I was looking at the haze on the sod farm across from me. And then all of a sudden, the juniper bushes start wiggling, and I get up next to the window and look down. I see a pair of bare feet sticking out the end of some blue jeans, some bell bottoms. This kid I don't know what he was high on, but I don't know where he was from. He didn't know where he was from. He was just, there was no color left in his eyes. It was total, the pupil had taken over. And the guy was scared crapless, man. I'm not kidding you. But things started happening like that. I mean, this is why I moved out, because some of the things, the crazy things that were happening. Some guy threatened the life of my mother and things of this nature, because I don't even know where this was coming from. Some kind of, they were tripping on something, and he said that his mother bred with my father, and that's how he got here, and he was supposed to tell of the second coming of Christ and all this stuff. Holy crap, man. It was crazy. I ended up moving because of the constant barrage of, when you're that accessible, you got to have guns at every door. And I mean, crazy stuff goes on in this world today.
Such a gargantuan, huge rock band in the early 70s. I should say early to mid 70s. And before we go, I should mention that we have our own swag now, t-shirts and a mug, and we're working on more things to put together. You can either get the t-shirt that says Rock History Music, because we have a nice logo. We spent some money on it. And we have our own Rock History Music mugs as well. And remember, when you buy our t-shirts or our mug, partial proceeds go to St. Jude's Hospital. And thanks for the support. Anyone who buys a t-shirt, will put them in the last half of all our videos. We're going to have a montage of folks just wearing our t-shirts. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.